The proposed takeover by Nexen, ladies and gentlemen, which is our 6th largest oil company in Canada, by the CNOOC, is one of Beijing's largest attempted buyouts to date. You've heard a lot about SOEs this morning, but and I agree with the members of the panel who've said that they are unlike responsible publicly traded or private companies in Canada. They offer as extensions of the party state in China, and with priorities far different than the concerns of their employees, their customers, and their shareholders. The Harper government, as everybody knows, has to decide under the vague net benefit tests and the national security tests in the Investment Canada Act whether to allow this takeover. It's important to keep in mind that what is sought is a complete change in ownership, as has been alluded to, of a company with 3,000 employees, which has been operating in a socially responsible manner in Canada and in other countries in the world. In fact, I visited Nexen's oil installations in Yemen and seen their community projects nearby, and have often said that Nexen was one of our model socially responsible companies in Canada. The takeover would constitute Nexen's nationalization. I repeat, nationalization by the party state in Beijing. CNOOC is controlled by its parent, the China National Offshore Oil, which is wholly owned by the Chinese government, which is in turn, of course, dominated from top to bottom by the Communist Party. A similar offer was made by CNOOC, I guess I should say, for Unicol in California in 2005, but was halted in the face of strong opposition in Congress and the American public opinion. I think you'd agree. China Min Metals was considered a takeover by the same year, and for Noranda, which was then our largest mining company, but it was abandoned when a number of us pointed out that China Min Metals was actually a part of the mines department of the government of China. I don't think it was even an incorporated company. The board chair of CNOOC, Wang Yiling, by the way, if some of you are taking notes, what I'm saying to you is being carried today by the Calgary Herald. I'm very happy to tell the Albertans here, so you can get it off the website, and I believe it's going to be sent out to all of you too, right? Yes, Wang Yilin is also the secretary of the party branch in the business. Charles Burton, the academic and former Canadian cultural attaché in Beijing, explains, quote, CNOOC's party committee has a party discipline inspection group whose head, Zhang Jinwei, is also a senior member of the CNOOC board. Zhang's job is to make sure that all the leaders of Nexen comply with the secret directives of the party leadership in Beijing. It's difficult to believe that this will all go the way that CNOOC, its Canadian lawyers, PR agencies, and pro-China Canadian supporters say it will, close quote. I'm sure you all read The Economist magazine. They said in their issue on January the 21st about state capitalism in China, quote, the Chinese party state is the largest shareholder in the country's 150 largest companies and directs thousands of others. A culture of corruption permeates China's economy today, with Transparency International ranking it at 75th place in its perceived corruption index. That's from the top. Close quote. The magazine quotes a Central Bank of China estimate that between the mid-90s and 2008, 16,000 to 18,000 Chinese officials and executives of state-owned companies, quote, made off with a total of $123 billion, which averages out at about $6 million each. And concluded, quote, by turning companies into organs of the government, state capitalism simultaneously concentrates power and corrupts it. A book called The Party, published in 2010 by Richard McGregor, former China bureau chief of the Financial Times, documents its continuing grip on the government, courts, media, and military. And I quote, top leaders adhere to Marxism in their public statements, even as they depend on a ruthless private sector to create jobs. The party has eradicated or emasculated political rivals, eliminated the autonomy of the courts and press, restricted religion and civil society, denigrated rival versions of nationhood, centralized political power, established extensive networks of security police and dispatched dissidents to labor camps, close quote. But consider the conduct of SOEs, Chinese SOEs globally. When the China National Petroleum Corp took a stake in Sudan's oil fields in 1996, Beijing subsequently backed the al-Bashir regime in Khartoum, selling it arms and providing diplomatic cover at the UN Security Council. Bashir and his agents committed systematic atrocities in South Sudan and Darfur, as you all know, for which he has been indicted by the International Criminal Court. Africans also accused Chinese resource companies of underbidding local firms and not hiring local residents. In Zambia, Chinese mining companies banned union activity and in 2 instances were charged with attempted murder after opening fire on local employees protesting work conditions. Its SOE roles in Iran, as we've just heard, and elsewhere are similarly controversial, to put it mildly. In our own country, Sinopec flew 150 Chinese workers into Alberta in 2007 to build a storage tank on an oil project. 2 of them were killed, 2 of them were injured, and the company took the view, and I used to practice law in Alberta, that they didn't have a presence in Alberta. Can you imagine? When they were charged by the Alberta government with not protecting their employees. You've also probably all noticed that they recently pleaded guilty as charged to this, and I don't think there's any doubt that they did that because they wanted to improve their prospects for getting hold of Nexen. Major corporations are above the law in China and routinely ignore safety, environmental, and employment legislation with impunity. Former employees of CNOOC in China are now reported saying that it has been one of the most active agencies of the party state in persecuting Falun Gong. We should all know more about that. Beijing would not for a moment permit a foreign government or private country to take over a major business like Nexen in China. There's no reciprocity between China and Canada on trade and investment. The bilateral investor protection agreement, which took 18 years to negotiate, is apparently now signed, but has not been ratified. I see that Professor Gus Van Harten wrote the other day that under the treaty, the danger for Canada is that on balance, we are the capital importer. This is the first deal Canada has signed since NAFTA where this is the case. Thus, under the Canada-China Treaty, we will be sitting duck for investors and a dripping roast, an interesting phrase, for the lawyers and arbitrators. My friend Elizabeth May is here today, and I'm sure she'll have a question. She's also written critically about this imagination. But Elizabeth, yours is the only party I think that I haven't belonged to. So please. There's time. There's time. Anyway. So Canadians have indicated decisively through opinion surveys. I think the one I saw was 69% of Canadians are opposed and 9% are in favor of this deal. And other avenues, the extent of opposition across the country to the opposed Nexen takeover. In blocking it, the Harper government should publish a set of regulation for SOEs, whether they are publicly traded or not, to govern all foreign takeovers. Any SOE, regardless of national origin, will be limited to a minority shareholding in any Canadian business. CNOOC might be told they can own up to 20% of Nexen, but provided that no other entity linked to the party state in China attempts in future to purchase any additional ownership. Thank you.